Welcome, welcome, welcome to Empowered Women in Business International Radio. I am your host, Taylor K on the mic, and we have a show for you all today. So we have some phenomenal ladies in the house, some movers and shakers in politics that are going to transform and empower our community like no other. Before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about EWBI. So, we serve a sisterhood of women entrepreneurs who understand that individually you can do great things, but collectively you can forever change the world. Members of our movement experience a support system that allows them to celebrate their wins and share their struggles in a series of opportunities that enhance them personally and professionally. So, if that sounds like something that you're interested in, you can visit our website at www.ewbiradio.org. Again, that was www.ewbiradio.org. So, we're going to go to our quote of the day and then we're going to introduce our guests. Our quote of the day is: if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. By Margaret Thatcher. If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. By Margaret
Yeah.
Thatcher. Do
I
you
love
guys
it.
agree with that?
Yes, yes. We almost threw our phones
Right,
and
right.
ran around the church. It's a good quote.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So, we have some wonderful guests with us today. We have Rain Pryor running for 3rd District City Councilwoman. And we have Tori Rose running for District 7 Councilwoman. So, let's welcome them. Hello, 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 ladies.
Hello.
Let's welcome
Hi.
say hello,
Hello.
ladies. So,
How lovely.
so, tell us, Rain, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Rain Pryor. I'm an entertainer by trade and educator, activist, public speaker. Um, and I decided to run for city council in the 3rd district after an incident with my daughter being bullied in the public schools, and decided I'm a person that loves to put my mouth to action. So if I say something, I got to follow through. I think Tori and I just talked about that earlier on. And I decided to step into a role to run for public office because I really do care about the city of Baltimore, and I really care about the community and my neighbors. And I want to represent those voices that I feel aren't being represented currently.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rain. All right, now, Tori, you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So I'm Tori Rose, also known as Tori Rose the Connector, and now known as Tori Rose the Candidate. And I'm running for City Council in District 7. I'm a mom of an amazing 11-year-old boy, my son Joshua. I am an educator as well, as Rain pointed out. And I am a career changer. I used to work for the federal government. So jokingly, I say I did 12 hard years in the feds. And so, my focus has always been on restoration and community. And what I understand about what we currently have in our city council is a lot of talk and, to Rain's point, not enough action. And so for any of us who have ever had a job, and most times as a woman, we're the cleanup people, we have to come behind others and make sense of a mess. That's what I saw in my community, a mess. And in 2018, one of my younger cousins was murdered. We've lost so many loved ones to gun violence. that I reached out first to the council person to see how I could assist. It was never about taking his seat or running him out, but how could I assist? I have skills and things that are different than what his are. And I thought collectively we could be like a good team, right? I could galvanize the people and get the communities to support him. And unfortunately, for whatever reasons, we weren't able to work together. And so I decided to run. And so I've been for 19 months now actively campaigning, knocking doors, reaching out, pushing social media, because we have to change what's happening. And that change has to start with us. And we also need more women, on the city council. Right now, we only have 4 out of 14 positions. There's no equitable or equal representation when we talk about the women's voice and women's needs on our city council.
Right.
Mm.
Tell it.
Very good. I was just reading an article, and in the article, it was stating exact same thing, that in 2018 it was a surge, an increase of women running for office because of number 45. I don't even want to say his name, y'all.
Right.
Because he ran and
The orange man.
Yes. Because he ran, and because, even if you look at his cabinet, there's no representation of us. So it's very sad, and we have a voice, and it is time for us to utilize our voice. So with
Most
that
certainly.
being said, tell us, if you got it, once you are elected into office, what are 3 of the major things that you want to work on? Tori, we're going to start with you.
Okay, so, and I'm not going to break the rules. I'm at the mush number 3 and 4 together, so I can say just 3. But my platform and my focus came out of the needs of what the community said they wanted and they needed. So I didn't want to be like a traditional politician and, shake my thumb and tell you I'm going to do. I wanted to listen. So for the first 7 months, we knocked doors. We listened to thousands of neighbors tell us what it is that they needed. And so we understand that right now, especially in the COVID crisis in this pandemic, we have a mall in our community, the Mondawmin Mall, that is grossly underutilized. And so I'm going to revitalize the Mondawmin Mall in the greater Mondawmin area so that we can see economic stimulation in our community and also an increase in jobs. We always tell our young people, get off the corner and do something productive. But honestly, there's a deficit. There's nothing for them to do in a lot of cases. And so revitalizing Mondawmin Mall, the greater Mondawmin area, that also includes stretching across the district and making sure that we have a standard in all of our shopping communities. So that's North Avenue, that's Hampton, that's Pennsylvania Avenue, those storefront revitalizations. The second thing is investment. So investing in mental health support, trauma response care. I mean, there's been some great things that have happened in the last 6 to 8 months with mental health and healing Baltimore City. But we need someone like myself who has succession management and who understands federal level funding to help bring funds into our city. And so investment, creating opportunities for youth, young adults, and our seniors to continue education. And so when I said I was going to combine 3 and 4, that's support and education, what that looks like is not only just jobs, but vocation. For the last year, I've had a personal goal of getting at least 11 people a job every month. And a lot of those jobs are pipelining into Civic Works and Yo Baltimore and some of the already existing programs in combination with doing my own training and employment services. So restore, invest, support, educate. That has been my plan. And we can use that model for every area of life, bringing supermarkets, from bringing jobs, from dealing with housing and the abandoned and vacant homes. Restore, invest, support, educate. And it also allows us to have a platform that is measurable versus all of this talk, all these big phrases and big numbers from City Hall, and they have no way of telling us if their plan is successful or not. And so that would be my plan. That's my focus, and it's measurable.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, Rain, you want to share?
So it's interesting. What I think I set out to do before, I would say pre-COVID, was very different than now. I think it was a lot broader and had had aspects of it that I was really counting on certain kind of investments to be able to revitalize Hartford Road and the area that we live in. That's still part of what my focus is, but now it's more geared to the basics because I feel that's what we're in need of. And that's what I'm hearing the community talk about. How are we going to get jobs? How am I going to feed my family and support myself? And I'm one of those people too, because I live here in Baltimore. I'm in the same position. So I'm hearing it from everyone. I'm feeling it for myself and my family. So what I want to do is figure out ways outside of the box to bring investments into our city, because people are going to look at investments differently. So how do we treat them to Baltimore, also get our communities involved in deciding what they want to see in the community themselves so that everyone here can be represented? That's really important to me. Have all those voices represented. And also my goal has always been about education, not only making sure that our education is equitable and making sure we have the budgets in place, but also help to change policy for bullying and violence. I've heard many people say as a council person, you can't do that, but building relationships with those who can, like the Congress people, the people in Senate, that's our job and that's what we should be doing. So that's kind of where my focuses have been, and on small business, how to help our small businesses thrive, because they really are the backbones of a lot of our communities here, and help them get restarted and regenerated again.
Awesome. So, Tori, we're going to ask you to cut your volume down just a little bit. I think we're getting a little echo. All right, and our next question is going to be, what is your why? So, Tori, we're going to go to you for what is your why?
Okay. Is this volume better?
And we'll see as we go along.
Okay. So my why, and I've said this 100 times over. When my cousin was murdered in January of 2018, I was working with a group of nonprofit organizations. My cousin, who's my business partner, and I were in a meeting trying to figure out how to bring equine therapy to inner city children who have gone through traumatic experiences. I get a phone call and they say the thing that no one wants to hear: there's been a situation. We need you to come identify your family member's body. And so through that course of just transition of how do I get in my car and now drive 40 minutes away, I actually had to drive through the crime scene. I saw the blood on the street. I saw people still galvanizing around my cousin's belongings. There were people who had pulled their cameras out and who had videotaped him taking his last breath. I understood in that moment that something needed to change, but I didn't know what. I honestly just didn't know what. And so I am a person who believes in God. I have said this 100 times over. I was minding my Black-owned business. I did not think about running for office. I have a degree in history and government, political science. I was in the federal government, but I was teaching, coaching, and living my life as a parent. I was not thinking about running for city council until God one day said, you are going to do this. And so for me, it is extremely personal, and it's extremely important for me to be the person that brings change to my community, because I don't see the love and the light. As I walk through the 37 communities in my district, I see such despair and so many people who are hurting and people who are hopeless and people who have just given up. They've given up on themselves. They've given up on us. They've given up on the political process. They don't feel like they belong anywhere. And so my why is because not only do I have the required education, the experience, I've taught, I've coached, I've been in federal government, I have my own not-for-profit initiative, but I have a heart to do the work, and I'm not going to be bought and sold into anybody's political scheme to sell out my community. So why not? Why not get tired of seeing the crap that's happening outside and stepping over trash and hearing 300 and 400 people are murdered each year? Why not? And ultimately, my son, who was 9 years old at the time, at my cousin's funeral or my cousin's viewing, he said, I don't want to be extinct. I am raising a son in an environment that he feels that this could be his fate. This is not normal. It's not normal for us not to have access to foods. It's not normal to be told that Black and brown people don't believe in environmental issues and that we don't garden and we don't care about green spaces. It's not normal to hear gunshots and wonder, is it fireworks or is it gunshots? It's not normal. And we have gotten so away from what the quality of life needs are of the everyday people. Our local government needs to focus on people. Too many times we have players who are just looking to leapfrog. They're using city council to get to the next, to the next, to the next. They're one-term hitter and quitters. And as I close, I'm going to say, I have made a promise not only to God, to my community, but to my son, who is now an 11-year-old fifth grader, Baltimore City Public School educated child, that he is going to be able to have life and have it in the abundance if I have anything to do with it. So my why is for all of us, for your children, my children, and for children who need a representative like myself to vie for them and to fight for them in this community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Rain?
You know, a lot of things Tori said resonated with me and why I decided to run. Politics, for me, I've never been in politics. It's not something I saw myself entering. When my daughter was bullied and she talked about ending her life and she was 10 years old, I sat there and said, no, this isn't normal. This isn't supposed to happen. When we were struggling and her dad decided, you know, he was going to become a police officer, and went against, for him, everything he stood for, because his family were a bunch of activists, and they're known in Baltimore for, you know, the poetry and their activism and the Pan-African national movement, and, you know, just like with my family in California. And so when he had to make a decision so we could support our family, and to watch the fear in him of what's been happening to our brothers and sisters, and realizing I personally made calls and emails to people in city council for help, and no one helped me. I said, this is not acceptable for our children or for myself, and that my voice is big enough and loud enough that I'm going to use that for something good. And I found myself, you know, at the signing my name to run for city council in the 3rd district. You know, and it's personal. This isn't about, you know, it's like someone said, well, what's going to happen if, you know, you don't win? And I said to myself, I'm going to still celebrate, because I have to be a role model for my daughter, who's now 12 years old. I have to show up for her in this experience. I have to be a good wife. I have to show up for my husband in this experience. I still have to think about, how am I putting food on the table? How am I going to take care of my family with the rest of everybody else? And so this has become, just like when you said God, it's like, you know, I believe in that Ashe spoke over me to be here to show up for this. That's right. And I am, no matter where it takes me. My work and everything I've done has been either about our kids or helping to bring people of all different races and nationalities together to hold conversation and space together. I'm still doing that in this process.
Awesome. Awesome. So, so all of our viewers and listeners, please, this is an interactive show. So if you have a question or a comment for Tori or Rain, please feel free to share it in Messenger. We want to hear from you guys. You can also leave it on YouTube as well. There is a place for you to comment on there as well. So if you could just share it. We're going to take this moment just to acknowledge some of our watchers, some of our viewers. I see Miss Barbara Moore. Hi, Miss Barbara. Thank you for tuning in. Frank Powers, Nicole Jones, Pam, Curtis, Nick Mosby, Delegate Nick Mosby, Christina Page, Destiny Bright, Elder Hawkins, Mia Williams, Manina Bush, and Jesse Ginsberg. So we have a lot of viewers tuning in. Don't hesitate to send us a comment. We love, love, love. Oh, Nicole said, great job, ladies. She's proud of both of you. it's so important for us to be able to find something that we're passionate about. So one of our quotes that we turned into an event is passion, purpose, and pumps. We feel that being fulfilled is finding your passion, turning it into your purpose, and walking it out in your pumps. And it sounds like that's what you ladies are doing. So, what would you say to someone who is sitting at home who's contemplating, should I run for office? Should I make that difference? What would you tell them to help them to come up with that deciding factor? I believe is you're up, Tori.
So, first and foremost, I think that you should do everything. Like, I am that person. When people say, well, wait, you're not like 75. How have you had so many jobs and done so much? But I jokingly say this is my second life, so I'm the oldest in this conversation. But you have to, especially if you're a believer, you have to walk in the availability of God. And so when opportunities come out, if you really think like I'm called to do something, not just, oh, I want to run because I want to have my name on a ballot. Like this is not for the faint of heart. Let me say that
Right.
this is not, because even Rain alluded to it. I'm a mom. I'm not a wife, but I still have a household. I still have responsibilities. My youngest sister got pregnant, was pregnant and had a baby throughout COVID. We were quarantined in the hospital, she and I and the baby, for 5 days. Real life is still going to happen. And when we are living in such a misogynistic environment where it's a male dominated industry, there are going to be challenges as a woman candidate that no one can prepare you for. No one. Again, you talking about passion, purpose, and pumps. I'm a very girly girl. And so when I first decided to, come out and I was campaigning, I had critics from across the country talking about she's too pretty to be a politician. And she has on pumps and she's wearing dresses. And I mean, oh my goodness, the attacks. And so you have to first ask yourself, why? Why do I want to do this? And really have a solid foundation. And then you have to be fluid. You have to understand that there are going to be people who start this process with you who are not going to finish it with you. And that is okay. There are seasons and there are reasons. You also have to, no one talks about this, the challenges as women of fundraising. Yes. I struggled asking people for money. You know why? Because I'm a Black woman who was raised in a Black family, and I was taught not to ask anybody for anything.
That's right.
So we are going to have to pull out and really coach and empower our sisters to know that, A, you're needed. I need you to run. Rain's daughters and Nicole's daughters and anybody else's daughters and my future daughters, we need you to run. Right. Because we have to level the playing field. But is it going to be easy? Oh, no. Is it fair? Oh, no. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But I would say ultimately do it. And get yourself a mentor or 3. Get yourself a coach or 3. And make sure that you are rooted in something that is stable. I'm rooted in God. And me and God go through it a lot. Like, Lord, you sure? Because this is his call on my life,
And how about you, Rain?
I would tell someone it's not for the faint of heart. It really, you have to have this drive in you that says you want to make change, or you want to affect change, or you want to help with change. And it's funny because it is very misogynistic. It is this world, and to come into it, I am brand new just with the fundraising piece. I was raised the same way. You do for yourself. You don't ask anybody for anything. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot in that process. I did not raise a lot of money because I didn't have that power to go, hi, da-da-da. And I had a friend of mine, Vernon Reed, and I'm name dropping. Vernon Reed from Living Color is a good friend of mine. And he said, you have never once said well, I'm Richard Pryor's daughter and you should give to me and this person and this person. I said, I don't do that in my career. So I said, if I'm building something in the community, of course I can make those phone calls. But for myself, it felt awkward. And so if you are coming into this thinking, why should I run? It has to be something in you that's a passion to really want to affect a change. And to be rooted, like you said, rooted and grounded in yourself, because people do come at you from all areas in all places, and you're going to cry your tears and you're going to bang and say, I want out. But the thing is, and one of the greatest things is my Baba telling me, you are going to finish this no matter what. You are not allowed to quit. He goes, you'll pull out your hair, you can cry. He goes, cry to your husband. He goes, but you are going to finish because you need to see yourself through something. And so if you're running, you need to see yourself through. If you're thinking about this, see yourself through. This isn't a tiptoe. You can't tiptoe here.
Can I also give an analogy, Nick, that I used earlier? And so for anyone who wants to understand, like, well, what are they really talking about? Because I have had people say, well, you signed up for this. Okay, so let me give you an analogy that you may better understand. You work in a company and you know everyone there. You've done your grunt work. You started at a level 1, you're at a level 10. And you have the experience, you're qualified, people like you. A job is posted on the job posting wall and you go for it. And you say, you know what? I've been encouraged to do this. I feel like I'm the right person to do this. God has aligned this for me. And you're the only applicant. And it looks like it's going to work in your favor. And then your boss invites you for an interview. You walk in the door and you get there and your boss's male best friend is at the table. And this best friend is not qualified. And this best friend doesn't have the experience and exposure you do, nor do they have the heart you have. But your boss says, not only do I want him to apply for the same position, I'm going to help him.
Right.
I'm going to give him money. I'm going to give him exposure. I'm going to give him all of the things that I want you to fight for to prove that you should have this job. See, it's in those analogies that we can regulate and wrap our minds around. That's not right. Absolutely. And we would know that as soon as we left that boss's office, we were going to the union and we're going to go tell somebody like they're discriminating against me. But in the world of politics, if you go to someone and say, well, wait, for me, I was out for a year before anyone else decided to even run. No one wanted to take on the incumbent but me. You know what people say? Square your shoulders. Oh, it's politics.
Right.
Well, wait, how is that different? And how is it right? And so I like to give those types of analogies to my team, to my mentees, because the reality is the word politics in itself has taken on such a negative connotation that we allow and we think it is susceptible to have misogyny, discrimination, targeting, harassment, and racism. It is not okay.
No.
That's right. It is not. In no place.
But run anyway, girl. We're your aunties. We'll help you out.
Exactly. Mentoring.
Mentoring is so important.
It is. It really is. And being able to have that trusted person that you can kind of share when you're kind of going through, because like you said, you do have those tough days. Absolutely. That, you're ready to throw in the towel, but that's with everything. It could be with a business owner. It could be a woman professional. We all have those days. So when you have those days, what are some of the things that you do? Is there a specific quote? Is it, do you take a walk, go to the spa? What are the things that you do? Do you read the Bible? Pray more? What do you do to help you get through? Because I'm sure other people can relate in a different way.
Rain, you want to go first?
Sure. Mm-hmm. So one of the things for me that I do, and it's traditional in my household with, whether it's lighting my sage, meditation, taking a moment for myself, breath is very important to me because a lot of times I feel like we forget how to breathe. Mm-hmm. And we forget even that we are breathing. And so I'll take a lot of deep breaths just to have a reflection on myself. Also, a lot of times for me, it's looking at being of service. When I get into service, whether it's not try to, even if it's cooking dinner, if it's cooking dinner, if it's cleaning, if it's helping my daughter with something or my husband with something, for me, when I'm in service, if it's helping a neighbor across the street with the weeds, I realize I get out of my way and out of myself. And I center myself. And when I place intention for what it is that I want to do, I keep it there and I keep that feeling going of like, it can happen for me And I don't worry about how or when. I just keep showing up for that process with that. And, I'm straight.
I love that.
A friend of mine, Candace Green, she does a peace break every day at noon. And basically it's breathing in and breathing out, and she calls it, of course, inhale, exhale, and it just brings a big peace and calm over you. So you'll be surprised how just something that God gives us that we do all the time will just that peace and that calm over you.
Most certainly.
Tori, Barbara says, Tori, I totally agree with you. A lot of the times we can use me. We say, use me, Lord. Then when he does, and it gets hard, we run in the opposite direction. However, if our passion is really our purpose, we must stand steadfast in faith, and it will all work out.
Most certainly. Thank you, Barbara. I totally agree. And I'm hearing some commonalities. My son and I, we are mindful. So mindfulness is a skill, right? We bring it all in. We breathe and all of that. And you mentioned a number of things: Bible, read, sing. I can't say my last name is Pryor, but I think I'm funny, and so I make jokes. But one of the things that I've done, and it's interrupted now because of COVID, I started boxing. So I started working out in Umar's boxing gym because, again, just so you guys can understand a little bit about my personality, I'm from West Baltimore, born and raised. And so what happens is no different than, Jesus was picking up disciples and some of them was salty and spicy. I have a very spicy personality. And so to be at a center of attacks all the time and be targeted for things just because you want to make a difference in a positive way, I had to find a healthy outlet for that. And so boxing. And so as soon as I can get back in and get trained and once we are on the other side of the primary, if COVID allows us or, if we get to a flattened curve, let me say it that way, and we're in a healthy place where I can get in the gym, I'll be back in the gym. If not, I'm calling my trainer because I saw he put this little makeshift gym in his house and I could be spawned in my house. Sometimes you have to release those endorphins no matter what you do. I believe in being mindful. I believe in being present in the moment. I speak in tongues. I pray down a demon. But guess what? Sometimes I got to fight it out. And I mean physically releasing it. So for some people, that might be taking a walk or taking a jog or going for a swim. And so for me, it's getting active. I love Kirk Franklin and I love Cardi B. And so I'll put Cardi B on and I'll get in the gym because my life at this place where I'm almost 40 years old, where I've helped so many other people raise their children and all of these different things. This life is about balance. Right. And it's about keeping the main things. And so whenever you're trying to break into a system that doesn't want you there, there's going to be tension. Oh, yeah. But God said, right, for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to finish strong. And I'm going to finish with integrity. And if I do have to cry, you ain't going to see me cry. I'm going to faith this thing out. FAITH, faith it out. Yes. And I'm about so I can get my endorphins together.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste. I was about to say, I'm gonna stay.
I'm gonna stay to the end. Okay.
So Korea says, hi, guest and EWBI. DeAndrea says, hey, ladies, be well and good luck with the election.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
And she agreed with someone. She said, it's so true. Yes, transparency. Barbara says, amen, ladies. Keep up the great work. And Lynette says, Cardi and Frank, perfect combo.
Yes, honey, that's balance.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about what do you think is the hardest thing with running for office?
Can I start on this one?
Yes.
Okay. And so there's no litmus test, right? And so what happens is, and especially in this candidacy, I have heard people say things like, well, what are you going to do about the money in this budget and this pot and this board of estimates and this? I mean, they ask you questions on day one that you should have an understanding of. True. But we all should, because this is a system that affects us all.
Right.
But there is no litmus test. Baltimore City's charter says you need to live in your home for a certain amount of time, have $50, and be able to put your name on a ballot. Like, that's it. For women who are running for any office, even when it comes to like state central committee, that's a volunteer position, there are frequently hurdles that are put in place to discredit why you are running, or to justify why others feel like you should not be there. And so for me, again, I understand policy. I worked in the federal level. And so understanding then the local level, how things happen, I wanted to study that. I wanted to really understand the science behind the policies here. So I wouldn't talk in the beginning. And people are like, well, you always, you're a verbal person. But again, I'm a listen first. A wise woman listens before she speaks. And so one of the greatest challenges I found is that there is no litmus test, that you will have these experts who think that you should know straight out the gate. But then again, our male counterparts, many of them just rolled off their parents' couches and decided that they wanted to run, or their friends and family put them up to run, and they still don't know anything. And so I think that has been the challenge. And I'm not men bashing. I love my men. I just want to call it how it is.
I love that you just went, you're like girly, but you can box, and I love that. I love that because everything you just said resonates for someone like me, who has never experienced the politics of this politics. And I feel like, I'm 50 years old and I feel like I'm going to college. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm in the fast course in college, learning things left and right, bloom, bloom, bloom. But I think age-wise has taught me to surround myself with people who know more than I do.
Yes.
And so that is what I've done. I have asked people, even if I felt I'm not afraid to say I don't know. That's right. I'm not afraid. And I'm not afraid to say when I've made a mistake, because unlike you, I answered people's questions not fully understanding how I was how they were listening, because I'm like, I know what I mean, not realizing that was going to be turned around to mean something completely different or something else. And I was like, oh, it's like learning a role. There are certain ways you have to speak. There are certain words you have to use. There's a certain presence you're supposed to have, which I still don't think I'll have, because I'll always be who I am. So, but I have had to learn that, literally learn on my feet, and surround myself with a team of people that I can go to say, hey, we were talking about this today, and here's my take on it. Do I need to say it differently? So I get what I really want. And that's what I have grown to learn. And it has been part of the hardest part of the journey for me. But I'm getting out, getting to that finish line and out of it to go, oh my gosh, I did it. I've learned. Yeah. I've learned, and I've celebrated the impact of what this really is for our people.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a team of 14, and most of these people have been with me from day one. I have someone that sits in an advisory role from Parks and Rec, someone from housing, someone from planning, someone from substance abuse, someone from Department of Health. And so every area that I've talked about bringing change and investment and support and education, I have a subject matter expert at the table. And so I do agree with you, because it is not, even when you're elected, we won't be sitting on every committee. They give you a committee, you learn your committee. And as things progress, you get to understand the inner workings of the historical references, what things have happened before, what precedents have been there, so that you can stand equitably for your people. And so I do agree with that. I just wanted to say kudos to you for knowing that you don't have to be the smartest at the table or the most informed, but you better have the right people around you. Oh, awesome. She's so funny. I love it.
So, speaking of the right people, who do you admire or who do you look up to, that you feel like you want to emulate or, just maybe inspire to be, similar to? So, we're going to go with Tori because I believe Rain had the last one.
So there's a couple of people, and I'm gonna mention one, not because he's your brother and not because he's on this call, but I do look up to him. I do. Well, he and Marilyn both, and so there is something to glean from the Mosbys. All of you all, there's something to glean. And so one thing though, I've been told, in times of conflict, I stand like Nick. And so Nick has a way of standing very flat-footed on what it is that he believes in and how he feels, and he's not going to be moved. And so I've been told, like, you're standing like, like, and I used to call him my big brother, my big sister, my mentors, whatever. And they say, oh, you're standing like Nick. So I look up to him. I think that he has done great work, especially in the district. He was a city council person for our district 2 terms ago. And I appreciate what he has done. I know that there was a challenge for him even making the decision to go into the delegation because he was such an awesome council person. So again, that's not for any whatever. He's not endorsing me or any of that. I value him. But another person, because I'm a historian, is Victorine Adams. And so Victorine Adams, what she did for Black women in Baltimore and politics, she was the first African-American woman on the city council. She was an organizer. I am an organizer. She was a community person. I am a community person. And Shorty could drag, honey. If you see them outfits, you go back and you look at some of those pictures, she was the epitome of elegance. Just beautiful. And so to think that I can move into this role and I can still be who I am, to Rain's point, and keep my identity and be this feminine woman who still means business. Oh, I honor her. I look up to her. And in our community in Hanlon, the Victorine Adams Garden is there. And so I get to actually, be a part of a space that is attributed to this amazing woman who set the path for all of us to be here today.
Awesome. So one of the viewers says, thank you, ladies, for keeping it real.
Sure. You're welcome.
And,
no other way.
We don't have to not do that. Yeah. Hello.
Right.
Yeah.
Lynette says Mosbys are Black excellence. I would have to agree.
You better hashtag that.
Exactly.
And she did.
Nice.
So Sharia says he has my vote. Smart woman, Sharia Young.
Yes.
But
now, Sharia, don't be like my mom who was like, oh, yeah, he has my vote, and she don't even live in the city. Let's just make sure.
No,
because people got excited. People across our state, they got excited. And if they've met any of us, they're like, oh, you have my vote. And it's like, what's your zip code? 21244, 21234. Girl, if you don't stop. But we appreciate your support, that type of thing. So I think voter education has been like pristine during this time because people are really looking like, can I vote for this person? I want my person,
So Barbara says lots of children in the city has experienced trauma due to murder of loved ones, homelessness, poverty, abuse, etc. What will you do to change and improve their level of despair with our children? Now, before we go to that question, Rain, do you want to answer about your mentor or who you aspire to be like?
It's funny because I don't know if I aspire to be like people I admire. I really, and especially in the political sense, I really have watched on the side how she has navigated, which is Michelle Obama. I love her stature. I love her self of center at things that have come at her sideways and left, and how I just love her presence in all of that. And in my life, I've had great people like Melvin Van Peebles, who has been a big person that I have bounced off life ideas and my activism ideas to, of where I wanted to go and how I wanted to make change, you know, and he's the one who taught me sometimes you have to give them a kiss and then rinse your mouth with Listerine. Like, you know, he goes, there's a way you show up in things and still be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you have to recognize what's coming at you for what it is, you know, and learning that, because I am one that does not hold my tongue well. And so, you know, he has been great in teaching me how to like just smile, even though underneath you're saying something else.
Right. Or you're biting your tongue.
Right. And, you know, so people like him and Michelle Obama has that woosah in all of this. Like sometimes I'm like, girl, because I don't know if I could do that. So I really have learned to take some of those cues.
Awesome. So, Rain, this question is going to go to you from Miss Barbara, and I'm gonna read it one more time so you refresh your memory. She said, "Lots of children in this city have experienced trauma due to murder of loved ones, homelessness, poverty, abuse, etc. What will you do to change and improve their level of despair with our children?"
One of the things, you know, for me, and it started when Lotus was going through the situation she was going through in school, you know, and you recognize sometimes where kids come from, what they're growing up around or in. And what I wanted to see in place, and I still believe that, is to have mental health access for our children, so that we can learn to navigate the obstacles and the stuff that we face. You know, nobody knows how I grew up. You know, I grew up around people who were active addicts. I found my mom tried to kill herself twice when I was 5 years old. Wow. Not many people know that. I've had to navigate in my life to not become a statistic. Because of my dad, everyone would assume I would have headed down that road because technically that's what I was supposed to do. And it has always been a challenge for myself to have the esteem to step up and be who I am in the world. And so when I look at education, I look at our kids and I look at what we see on the news in Baltimore every day that impacts our children. I'm concerned about how they're thinking, how they're feeling, how I can tap into that esteem and build it for them or with them. You know, how do I empower our youth? And so everything that I would do as a council person would be to put in position the things in place that will empower our youth to be better than the generation that has come before them. Whether it's equitable education, making sure that, you know, there's a facility, which I would really love to see, which has families that can stay together and go and get educated at the same time, so that families don't have to be split up. Kids know where they're going to get their meal from. They know they have a roof over their head that night, and have an educational system that supports that. So that, again, there's equity across the board for our youth. So those are some of the things that have already been percolating in my head, and I'm still mapping out other things because, you know, then there's the criminal justice piece. And, you know, sometimes it's a holistic approach, and sometimes you have to take it bits at a time. And yeah.
All right. Tori, you want to answer?
Yeah. So much like what Rain shared, I was abused by my parent. I was abused by my dad for years. And so I was the young person who was taken from one side of the family, you know, custody battle, abused, and then taken out of that environment because of, you know, CPS and the school finding out that I was in an abusive household, to be put in care of my mother's side of the family, just to be homeless from 16 to 18. And so when you have walked the path that many of our children are walking, especially in my district in my community where we have kids who are in the Sandtown, Winchester area and Gilmore Homes and Northam Payson, Northam Pulaski, and Pennsylvania Avenue, and even in Reservoir Hill and Hampton, because we don't know what happens behind closed doors. And so I do believe that there needs to be a holistic approach. One of the things that I started last year actually was called Teen Talk. And there was an opportunity, and this is a gathering where I bring children from across the city, and I, again, just listen. I listen to where they are, creating safe spaces for them, bringing back the POW and the POW Center, fostering the relationship that I have with Parks and Recs to understand what rec centers are funded by the city and which ones are not, who owns what. A lot of times it comes down to a lack of access because the leadership has a lack of understanding of building relationships. And we also don't often understand where the money is going or how to leverage and bring money in. And so bringing back positive and safe places for students to go, making sure that the Kerwin Commission is funded, making sure that teachers are getting the adequate pay that they need and they deserve, but also that our schools have heat and air and lead-free water, and that the food there is supplemental and nutritional to our students. As a teacher, I currently teach high school. As a teacher, I'm the counselor, the mom, the Aunt Tori. I bring pads and deodorant and all of these things. And I have some children who look for me just so they can eat. And that's huge. And so why are we not looking at the needs of our children from a socio-emotional approach? Every school should have a team of social workers, therapists, paraprofessionals, counselors. That should be its own separate team. And I've said this before, we have the ability to pipeline those professionals right into our school system because we have Coppin, Morgan, and BCCC. And each of those are producing social workers and therapists and counselors. That's a level of education. We could also make sure that those 22, 23, 24-year-olds, when they graduate, they know they're going right into an inner city school where they are from. And so bringing back community trust is important as well. And Rain made a point about criminal justice and the police. Well, guess what? When I was growing up, we had officer friendly.
Right.
And we had officers that were in our community. I have officers in my family. We knew them. We trusted them. And so there's a cadet program that Baltimore City Police Department has that is not frequently talked about. They've been trying to bring life back into it. Well, as a councilwoman, as a leader, as someone who's not afraid to push the envelope and have the conversations, I want a pipeline from Carver, from Douglas, from Dunbar, right into the police department. It is a career path. And giving our youth and our young adults an opportunity to see it as a career path also gives them ownership of the community that they serve and they protect. Right. And so I am, again, a product of Baltimore City Public Schools. My son is in Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm a success story, and so are the other two women on this panel with me. If I can do it and you guys can do it, why can't our students do it? We have the access to do it. And so it just requires leadership that is not so focused on just building and $1 million buildings, and take that money. Even if we're doing development in our community, no one's going to develop in my community without reestablishing the trees, the streets, the schools, the community centers. How can you want to have a business in my community and not want to give to the community? And then be upset when the children or the community or whomever turns against the business and vandalizes or steals. No, enough is enough. And we need people who are willing to say enough is enough. Say it again.
And why is it that our educational system is always last to receive? You know, that's one of my biggest problems. They're always last to receive, and then they want to penny pinch every little dollar when our babies, especially in Baltimore City, are not where they need to be.
Most certainly.
Work with them, mentoring, and when I tell you it's difficult to read some of their work because I'm just so disappointed in our school system.
Absolutely.
I'm disappointed when I think about the mental health, or the lack thereof for our youth.
But you know that
I'm sorry. I know that there are programs put in place for mental health for our children that are taking advantage of our children, and they're not doing what they need to do. We have like so many PRP agencies out here who have the children who are getting paid, to see the children and aren't seeing them correctly. So I hope you ladies, keep all of these things in mind because it's so important, and we need strong women on the council to help push it through.
And that's what I was going to say. You have two women here who I think know exactly, because we have been listening to the community and to our people to say that we want to do something different and we want to hold those who need to be held accountable.
Most certainly.
And that we are about building that, it takes a village. We understand that. And so that's what I'm hearing from Tori. That's what I hear from you, Nicole. Like we are in this to really push forward. And it's exciting to me. Like regardless of the outcome, it's exciting to me because I know this work continues.
Most certainly.
No matter what.
Certainly. And to Nicole's point, I agree. I was an interim director of APRP. I worked very shortly there because, again, my experiences in building highly effective teams. And so oftentimes I get opportunities to go in and, sit and kind of clean up. I say this all the time. As a woman, we come in and we clean up. And what I saw was people taking advantage of already disadvantaged populations. And so people who are on Medicare or Medicaid, and just all these things. And too frequently, when you are the person who's going to blow the whistle and say, no, this is not right, people don't want you there because there are certain systems that have existed and people are lining their pockets. And so I would like to see anger from the parents. I want to see my parents. I encourage my parents. If you don't like the way things are going, you speak up. You go to North Avenue, because at the end of the day, the parents are our customers. Our children are our customers. And we have to start providing customer service that is deserving of the customer population that we serve. And so
our tax dollars pay for their salaries. So, at some point, people do have to listen to what we have to say.
Yeah.
Most certainly. Most certainly. And we do that by getting participatory budgeting, having it written in the Baltimore City Charter where the community gets to say where certain funds go. I have so many people who say, well, wait, I thought the money from the slots and I thought this and I thought that. But guess what? I turn it right back around and say, do you stay politically engaged in off seasons? If you only look at your ballot and the time and the week that you have to vote, I need you to come back to the table because you might have the solution. And so for me, I'm going to say this last thing. I was talking about her when I was talking about the budget. The mayor's office. So there are some organizations within the mayor's office, the Department for African American Male Engagement and things like that. I want to see a Department for Female Engagement. I want to see a Department for Senior Engagement. There's a lot of people that we are leaving out. And so what we started when we started We Lead 2 years ago was to bridge the gap in literacy, because most adults in our community are only reading at a 5th grade level. And so we need to pull back the veil, not just for our children, but for our children's parents and their caregivers. Because when we talk about disparities, if I can't lead my family, I can't sit down with my son and walk through his homework or read and comprehend, I then don't engage with that child. There's a distrust in the family system and in the household. And guess what? By the time your child is in the 3rd grade, after you've had too many arguments about how many apples that little Tommy have, your child will lie to you. Did you have homework today? Nope.
Yep.
Did you have homework today? No. And now there's distrust and there's a breaking down of the family fiber because education is lacking even at the adult level. And so that is work that I've been committed to doing and I'm going to continue to do even as the council person.
Well, look at the educational system now with the digital divide.
Exactly.
I think about these poor babies that they're home with sometimes, let's be honest, the abuser.
Yeah.
And they're home with them and they look forward to going to school
Most certainly.
Get away from the abuser. Now, who's helping little Johnny who, if the parents only have a 3rd grade education and he's in the 5th grade, who's helping little Johnny to understand that work?
Most certainly.
Exactly.
Or how about
the children with ADHD?
That's what I was going to say. Or IEP.
Right there. Right. Who's helping them to sit there and get to work because maybe mom or dad had to go to work, so the child is home now. Who's helping them? Now, don't get me wrong, because I think with COVID, that was the smartest thing for them to do. But we have to figure out these ways. And the problem is that we are reactive instead of being proactive.
Proactive. That's
Exactly.
right. That's right.
Once we can start to think okay, if this happens, then we need to do A, B, C.
But
The
I,
children could have went home with laptops the first day that they were going to be out for a week, because
Most
they're going to
certainly.
be out for a week of school.
Most
So
certainly.
not after a month and saying we're trying to get them laptops and still
right.
children don't
But
have
see,
laptops.
that's what we got to see is the structure was broken. And that's, I mean, that's the reason why you have people like myself and Tori running for office, because we saw before COVID, the structure was broken. And COVID to me kind of is like the volcano. It erupted and we saw it all now oozing out, and everyone's scrambling to put it together. And
Most
post
certainly.
COVID is going to be interesting, because that's where the planning now starts now, so that post COVID we start to catch up and we find where we can create that equity in the education,
Mm-hmm.
the equity for the kids, even in the home environment, because they're not all going to go to school at the same time. It's going to
That's
be
right.
off and on. And
Yeah.
these are the things we get to start looking at and start planning together. It's like Tori and I are on the same team. You might be in the 7th district. I might be in the 3rd. We're on the same team. And that's the whole thing about creating that community. City Hall has to think in that thing. We are a city. And this
Mm.
community, and how do we move forward for the equity for the people that we serve?
Most certainly.
We're going to do
Mm.
So listen, our time is coming to a close, but I do want to encourage each and every one of our listeners out there, please take a black pen, take the time to research the people that are on your ballot, and do the right thing and cast your vote. Your voice matters. Your voice matters. So, ladies, do you want to share any final thoughts, including your contact information if someone wants to donate or volunteer with your organization? And we're going to start off with Tori Rose.
Yes. So please follow us on social media. If you go to Facebook, you type in Tori Rose. It's T as in Tom, ORIROSE. You'll find me. Everything positive is Tori Rose. Anything negative is not me. So you can find me on Facebook, Tori Rose. On Instagram, I'm elect_Tori_Rose. I'm also on Twitter as elect Tori Rose. Also, you can follow me at my website or find more information at my website, which is www.votetoryrose.com. I'm also the only woman on the ballot running for city council in District 7. I'm the second bubble, but I'm the first choice. So please vote for me.
Thank you. And
That's
Rain.
wonderful. You can find me at Rain Pryor on Facebook, or Committee to Elect Rain Pryor on Facebook. You can also find out about, if you want to make donations or get in touch with me, at Pryor4, that's the number 4, citycouncil.com. And feel free at any time to reach out to ask me questions. I'm available between now and even after June the 2nd to help in any way I can to facilitate us coming together as a community.
Awesome, awesome. And I do want to ask you one final question, because Richard Pryor is your dad.
Yeah.
How do you find a way to celebrate your dad and his success, but separate and run as an individual?
You know, I my whole life has been that. I mean, I'm his daughter. So even in the career choices I've made, he's bigger than, larger than life, but he's one of the shoulders I stand on. You know, without his paving a way to be outspoken and be about truth, I wouldn't have this drive in me to also be that. And so what I've learned to do is I kind of shut that part sometimes down, because I'm like, I'm Rain Pryor. This isn't really, Richard Pryor's race running for office. And then I make fun of it, because, the truth is, it's like, I get the name has this thing to it. I get who my father was in the world. But what's great is he he made me. He made my brothers and my sisters for us to be able to carry on about truth and to carry on about activism. That's all he was about. That's all. Same with my mom. That's all she was about. So I honor that in the aspect, and I present myself as who I say that I am. And the rest is not my responsibility.
I love
And I
it.
asked
I
that
love it.
question because
Yeah.
I feel the same way you do. My younger
bet.
brother, I have a good friend of the family who would go and introduce me as, this is Nick Mosby's sister. And I'm like, wait a minute. I love my brother and I'm one of his biggest fans. Anybody that knows me knows I'm one of his biggest fans. But I made a name for myself. I work hard in this community to bring light, to empower others, especially our kids and women. So I'm like, no, my name is Nicole Mosby Taylor. Like, so I just, and I heard you mention it earlier, so I did want to go back to that. But I just want to thank all of our viewers and listeners. Thank you for a very interactive session. Thank you, Rain Pryor, for coming on, and Tori
Thank you
Rose.
for having me.
We do have a couple of announcements. If anyone would like to help one of our EWBI members, she is a phenomenal woman. Her name is Nicole Jones, and she is trying to reach a specific goal. She's trying to reach 1,000 new customers for her Justice for My Jewel business, which is a chemical-free sanitary napkin. So you can purchase these chemical-free sanitary napkins. We know that sanitary napkins, and especially in our community, causes all type of havoc for women. And so if she's still listening, if she could post her link below. But if you could help her just by buying one pack, they're inexpensive, but you'll love them.
What did you say her name? Can you email us her information so we can stay connected?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Yes, definitely. She just donated 50 packs of sanitary napkins to to a gentleman who was feeding the homeless, so that he could pass them out to the homeless. So I really want us to galvanize behind her and support, her mission. We also have another EWBI member, Sharia Young, who she sells her books, and a portion of the proceeds go to her cousin or uncle's nonprofit, which is helping. Sharia, I know you're listening, so post that link also. And last but not least, we are hosting a raffle. The tickets are $25. You get to receive a 3-hour car ride by none other than Borden Transportation. You get your makeup done by Slay by Day, and a photography session with shots by D. Nicole. So if you would like to enter, you can Cash App us the $25. And the Cash App is the dollar symbol EWBI01, and it's only $25. And we will announce the winner in a couple of weeks, but we want to give people a chance to enter. So, and I believe that is all of our announcements for today. So we're going to close like we always do. Individually, we can do great things, but collectively, we can forever change the world by Nick Mosby. Don't forget to lock here next Tuesday from 8:05 to 9:05 on Empowered Women in Business International Radio, and visit our website at www.ewbiradio.org. Also go and like our Facebook page, Empower Women in Business International, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is our first live YouTube, so yay! Go and subscribe to Empowered Women in Business International. Thank you all again for listening and tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you Tuesday, same place, same time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, ladies. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Both Rain and Tori.
Thank you.